Welcome to the Golden Gems podcast. Today we're taking a deep dive into Fred Hampton and the forensic breakdown of how the FBI orchestrated the assassination of a 21-year-old visionary.
Right, and to really grasp this, we need to place you directly into the chilling reality of December 4th, 1969.
Yeah, exactly 4:03 in the morning.
Right. 14 heavily armed Chicago police officers breach an apartment at 2337 West Monroe Street.
And, the raw forensics of what follows really just dictate the historical record. I mean, between 90 and 99 police bullets are fired into that space.
Well, in response, there is precisely just a single post-mortem shotgun discharge from Panther Mark Clark.
Right, as he's literally falling dead. So this deep dive is not just a recounting of a tragedy. It is a clinical examination of state power, systemic boundaries, and the terrifying effectiveness of a 21-year-old organizer.
An organizer who built a multiracial working-class coalition that struck absolute fear into the heart of J. Edgar Hoover.
Exactly. And to understand the threat Hampton posed to the establishment, we must first look at the invisible, systemic boundaries that shaped his early worldview.
Yeah, you really have to trace his roots. His parents, Francis and Iberia, they were part of the Great Migration.
Moving up from the South, right?
Right, from Haynesville, Louisiana, seeking economic traction. And they found it at the Argo Corn Starch plant in Summit, Illinois.
Which was this massive industrial ecosystem. I mean, smokestacks, rail lines running 24 hours a day.
Oh, absolutely. The labor was brutal, characterized by these long, grueling hours and just pervasive corn dust over everything. But it offered stability.
And that stability led them to Maywood, which gave the illusion of suburban stability.
Right, tree-lined streets and single-family homes.
But the reality of Cook County was completely blocked by redlining and restrictive covenants.
Exactly. Black families were legally prevented from buying property outside these designated, highly contained areas.
So Hampton grew up watching his parents negotiate these artificial boundaries every single day.
He did. And he didn't just passively observe it. He actively organized early on, like at Proviso East High School.
Where he was elected to the Interracial Cross Section Committee, right?
Yes, to mediate the racial tensions in a school that was technically integrated but incredibly tense. Plus, he was this disciplined athlete, learning how to mobilize people on the field.
And he takes those skills to Triton Junior College, majoring in pre-law.
Right, because he honestly believed the law could act as a shield for marginalized people.
But, I mean, the deep irony of his legal studies is staggering. It is akin to studying the architectural blueprints of a house, only to realize the doors were intentionally built to lock your community on the outside.
Wow, yeah, that's exactly what he realized.
So how did this realization fundamentally shift Hampton from a reformer into a radical builder of parallel systems?
Well, once he saw the courts were functioning exactly as designed to protect capital and maintain racial hierarchies, he just severed his reliance on existing institutions entirely.
Because he knew the legal framework wouldn't save his community.
Right. So he pivoted to forcing institutions to bend through organized mass pressure. You see this when he takes over the youth council of the NAACP West Suburban branch.
He transformed that overnight, didn't he?
Oh, completely. It went from a casual social club to a disciplined 500-member advocacy machine.
And his campaign for the Maywood public swimming pool was basically his proof of concept.
Exactly. The pool was functionally segregated through bureaucratic obstacles. And instead of filing a lawsuit...
And waiting years for an appellate court.
Right. He bypassed standard legal appeals, organized mass demonstrations, and used press leverage until the city capitulated.
He proved organized pressure works. And that sets the stage for his induction into the Black Panther Party in 1968, becoming the Illinois chapter chairman at just 20 years old.
Yes. And the Panthers operated with strict discipline. They famously utilized California Penal Code 12031, which allowed the open carry of loaded firearms to legally patrol the police.
Wait, let me just push back on this popular, sterilized historical narrative for a second. Because everyone focuses solely on the Panthers' armed militancy. The guns, the leather jacket.
Right, the aesthetics.
Exactly. But wouldn't you say the bureaucratic and community infrastructure, the free health clinics, the breakfast programs, was actually a far greater threat to J. Edgar Hoover's status quo than the firearms?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, those parallel institutions challenged the fundamental legitimacy of the state.
Because they were doing the government's job.
Exactly. If a 20-year-old college dropout can organize a logistical system that feeds thousands of children and provides medical care to abandoned communities, it brutally exposes the state's failure.
Hoover knew that providing essential services generates unshakable loyalty,
Right, the weapons were defensive, but the infrastructure was an offensive ideological strike.
showing they could govern themselves. But organizing the black community terrified the FBI. Yet Hampton's ultimate masterpiece, what truly signed his death warrant, was crossing rigid geographic and racial lines through shared class analysis.
The Rainbow Coalition, it was completely unprecedented.
He started with the Young Lords, right? Jose Cha Cha Jimenez.
Right, a Puerto Rican street gang turned political organization fighting displacement.
But then, the unprecedented outreach to the Young Patriots.
Yeah, these were poor white Appalachian migrants in Uptown. They literally wore Confederate flags on their denim jackets.
And Hampton sits down with them to explain a core philosophical stake, demonstrating that landlords, bosses, and police were exploiting all of them equally.
He showed them their conditions were mechanically identical.
It is like diffusing a bomb by rewiring its core logic. I mean, how did Hampton, at just 20 years old, manage to completely bypass entrenched American identity politics in favor of strict, unifying material analysis?
By focusing strictly on material conditions rather than cultural grievances. He articulated that race was being weaponized by the ruling class to prevent working-class solidarity.
So once they saw the shared mechanics of their poverty, the symbols lost their power.
Exactly. The Patriots voluntarily dropped the Confederate flags and joined the coalition.
It's astounding. But this exact multiracial, working-class solidarity triggered the FBI's worst nightmare.
The rise of a unifying messiah. That was the explicit objective of their COINTELPRO operation to prevent.
Which leads directly to the tragic bureaucratic machinations of his murder.
Right. The FBI's Chicago office assigns Special Agent Roy Mitchell, and he recruits William O'Neill, a 17-year-old car thief.
Facing serious federal charges.
Yeah, so in exchange for dropping the charges, O'Neill infiltrates the Panthers and becomes head of security.
Granting him unfettered access. And the paperwork from this is just chilling.
It really is. On November 21st, O'Neill submits a hand-drawn floor plan, later Exhibit 14 marking Hampton's bed with an X.
And then on December 2nd, the FBI approves a $300 bonus for O'Neill.
For providing that exact intelligence.
This is what gets me. Look at the terrifyingly banal bureaucratic nature of the assassination. A $300 bonus request and a hand-drawn floor plan reduce a state-sponsored execution to mere administrative paperwork.
It's treated like a routine office expense.
Can you unpack the cold forensics of how the state legally justified neutralizing a citizen like this?
Well, the FBI needed local cover, so they gave the floor plan to Cook County State's Attorney Edward Hanrahan.
Who was running a hardline law and order platform.
Right. Hanrahan secured a search warrant for illegal weapons, giving them a legal pretext for a raid.
So on the night of December 3rd, O'Neill slips secobarbital, a heavy sedative, into the Kool-Aid at the apartment.
Hampton drinks it after teaching a class and falls into a chemically induced sleep.
Alongside his pregnant girlfriend, Deborah Johnson. And she couldn't wake him.
No, he was completely unresponsive. Then, at 4:30 a.m., 14 officers breach the doors without announcing themselves.
Mark Clark is killed instantly in the front room.
And using that FBI floor plan, the police direct nearly 100 rounds into the rear bedroom, specifically targeting the X.
They pulled Deborah Johnson out and then fired 2 shots point blank into Fred Hampton's head.
A clinical execution.
The physical execution was intended to be the permanent end of his movement. But the state's clumsy cover-up unraveled, didn't it?
Instantly, Hanrahan lied to the press about an ambush, passing off nail holes in the door as bullet holes.
But the BPP's tactical brilliance changed everything. They opened the apartment to the public and journalists, like from the Chicago Tribune, to prove it was a one-sided execution.
Right, the architecture of the space proved there was no outgoing fire.
And the FBI's role is finally exposed by the 1971 Citizens Commission break-in in Media, Pennsylvania.
Which exposed the COINTELPRO documents and launched a grueling 13-year legal battle.
Despite hostile judges like J. Sam Perry.
Right, the discovery process forced the government to release 200 volumes of FBI documents, including the bonus request and Exhibit 42.
Leading to the 1982 settlement of $1.85 million.
Split exactly in thirds by the city, county, and feds, a binding admission of guilt.
And then, in 1990, William O'Neill dies by suicide on MLK Day. And Iberia Hampton made this profound statement, blaming the system, not O'Neill.
Yeah, she refused to focus her hatred on him.
I have to pause on Iberia Hampton's incredible grace here. Blaming the system rather than O'Neill. What does this reveal about the enduring power of Hampton's systemic critique, that even his grieving mother analyzed his betrayal through the lens of institutional exploitation rather than individual vengeance.
It proves his political education was structurally sound. She saw O'Neill as an expendable tool manipulated by a massive federal apparatus. To hate him would be missing the architecture of the oppression entirely.
Which means his analysis outlived the assassins.
Absolutely. His childhood home is now a landmark.
His language and rejection of identity politics lived on in campaigns like Bernie Sanders.
And the 2021 Oscar-winning film, Judas and the Black Messiah, opened the vault on this history for the world.
Leaving you with a profound, lingering question drawn from the text. How does a society reconcile its stated democratic ideals with a documented historical reality that its own federal and local law enforcement agencies conspired to drug and assassinate a 21-year-old citizen whose only crime was successfully organizing the impoverished masses across the boundaries of race and geography?
It's a contradiction that demands we keep analyzing the structures around us.
The insights from today's deep dive are grounded in the historical and cultural criticism of biographer Abel Arroyo, who focuses on the forensic breakdown of legacy and state power.
It's been an incredibly vital discussion.
Thank you for listening to the Golden Gems podcast. We'll be back next time with another deep dive. Until then, keep exploring, keep listening, and keep celebrating the power of uncompromising voices.